Don't think logically. Carl Jung warned that the moment logic enters, the subconscious closes its doors. So for the next few minutes, allow your mind to drift instead of analyze. Because this is not a personality quiz, and it is not entertainment. This is a symbolic mirror of your shadow, the part of you that quietly controls your fears, reactions, and decisions without asking permission. In Jungian psychology, a tree is not just a tree, it is one of the oldest symbols of the self. Its roots represent the unconscious mind, where fears are born. Its trunk represents the ego you show to the world, and its branches represent your social identity and future direction. Which is why your reaction to a tree is never random. It comes from a place deeper than thought. So now imagine 4 trees placed in front of you. Do not compare them, do not search for meaning yet. Simply notice which one pulls you emotionally. Even discomfort is a pull. Even fear is a signal. Choose instinctively, because the tree you choose represents the fear your ego avoids, but your shadow carries every day. If you chose the tall, isolated tree, standing alone in open land, strong but distant, then understand this is the archetype of the orphan. A deep Jungian pattern formed when safety was uncertain early in life. Your deepest fear is abandonment, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet belief that no one truly stays. You may appear independent, emotionally controlled, even proud of standing alone. But beneath that strength lives a fear that if you lean on someone, they will eventually disappear. So you learned to survive without needing. Your shadow whispers that attachment equals pain, which is why intimacy feels risky even when you crave it. If instead you were drawn to the twisted dark tree with bent branches and a damaged form, then you have encountered your shadow archetype directly. This choice reveals a fear, not of the world, but of yourself. A fear that there is something broken or unacceptable inside you. Something that must be hidden. You may carry guilt, suppressed anger, or memories you never fully processed. And your greatest fear is exposure. That if others saw the real, unfiltered version of you, they would turn away. So you polish your persona carefully, yet the shadow grows stronger the more it is ignored. Now, if the tree you chose was the one hidden inside a dense forest, surrounded by others, safe but indistinguishable, then this reflects the persona archetype. Your fear is not failure, but visibility. You fear standing out because attention once felt dangerous or overwhelming, so blending in became protection. You may be kind, adaptable, easy to be around, yet secretly terrified of being truly seen, because being seen means being judged, and judgment feels like rejection to your nervous system. Finally, if your eyes went to the dead or leafless tree, stripped of growth and life, then this is the fear of Nan being one of the deepest Jung identified, the terror of becoming irrelevant, forgotten, or meaningless. This fear often hides behind ambition or constant self-improvement. You push forward, not because you are inspired, but because stopping feels like disappearing. Your shadow believes worth must be proven endlessly, otherwise you cease to exist, and this fear silently exhausts you. What matters now is not which tree you chose, but why it felt familiar. Because familiarity is the language of the unconscious. In the next part we will go deeper into how these fears were formed, how they secretly shape your relationships and decisions, and why Jung believed facing them is the beginning of real inner freedom, not comfort, not happiness, but wholeness. Carl Jung believed that fear is never created in adulthood, it is only activated there. The real origin always lies earlier, buried in moments when the psyche learned what was safe and what was dangerous. So if you chose the isolated tree, understand that your fear of abandonment did not come from being alone. It came from inconsistency, from emotional availability that appeared and disappeared, teaching your nervous system that closeness is temporary, which is why today you may pull away before others can leave. You value independence not because you do not need connection, but because needing once felt unsafe. This fear quietly shapes your relationships. You may attract emotionally distant people or unconsciously test loyalty, because your shadow is always asking, will you stay? If you chose the twisted dark tree, your fear of inner darkness likely formed when parts of you were judged, shamed, or misunderstood. Maybe your emotions were labeled too much, too intense, or wrong, so you learned to split yourself. One part acceptable, one part hidden. Jung called this repression, and whatever is repressed does not disappear. It waits. Which is why you may feel sudden guilt, intrusive thoughts, or self-sabotage. Your relationships are affected because true intimacy requires exposure. Yet exposure feels like danger. so you remain guarded even when you want closeness. If the forest tree was your choice, your fear of being seen was born when attention felt overwhelming or conditional. Perhaps praise came with pressure, or mistakes were noticed more than effort. So invisibility became safety. Blending in became survival. As an adult, this fear shows up as hesitation, people-pleasing, or difficulty claiming space. You may feel frustrated watching others live boldly while you remain hidden. Yet your shadow believes visibility equals loss of love. And finally, if you chose the dead tree, your fear of nan being often forms in environments where worth was tied to achievement, usefulness, or performance. Love may have felt conditional, earned rather than given, so rest became guilt. Stillness became anxiety, and your shadow learned that stopping equals disappearing. This fear drives you to constantly do, fix, improve, yet no amount of achievement brings peace, because the fear is existential, not practical. Jung warned that when fear remains unconscious, it does not guide, it controls, it leaks into choices, partners, careers, and self-image, making you repeat patterns you think are coincidence, but the moment fear is seen, it begins to lose its grip. Because awareness weakens the shadow's power, and this is why this test feels unsettling. It bypasses logic and speaks directly to the unconscious. In the final part, we will confront the most uncomfortable truth. Jung taught that the fear you avoid is not your enemy. It is the doorway to integration, and without integrating it, no amount of motivation, positivity, or success will bring inner peace. Carl Jung believed that healing does not happen by eliminating fear, but by integrating it. Because whatever you reject in yourself becomes fate, and whatever you accept becomes strength. So if you chose the isolated tree, your work is not to become less independent, but to allow safe dependence, to risk closeness without testing or withdrawing. Because your fear of abandonment is not proof that people leave, it is proof that connection once mattered deeply to you. And when you stop treating attachment as weakness, loneliness stops defining you. If the twisted dark tree called to you, then integration begins the moment you stop labeling parts of yourself as unacceptable. Your shadow is not evil. It is energy that was never allowed expression. And when acknowledged consciously, it transforms into authenticity, creativity, and emotional depth. The fear of being exposed dissolves when you realize that wholeness is more attractive than perfection. Now, if you chose the forest tree, your healing lies in conscious visibility, not sudden exposure but small acts of being seen. Speaking one honest thought, taking one unapologetic space, because your fear of standing out is not cowardice, it is a memory of when safety depended on blending in, but the self cannot mature while hidden. And finally, if the dead tree resonated with you, your integration begins with rest, not collapse but stillness without guilt, because your worth does not come from movement, it comes from existence. Jung taught that the fear of nan being fades when a person reconnects with meaning rather than achievement. When you allow yourself to exist without proving, the fear loses its urgency. The deeper truth is this: the tree you chose is not your weakness. It is the symbol of the part of you asking to be acknowledged, and when you face it consciously, it stops controlling you unconsciously. If this felt disturbingly accurate, that is not coincidence, it is recognition. The unconscious always recognizes itself first. Comment the tree you chose, not for validation, but as an act of awareness. And if you watch this again, you may notice your reaction changing, because once the shadow is seen, it is never the same again.